North Fort Myers, Southwest Florida. That's right, my friends. Home of gators, snakes, and hurricanes. And senior citizens. All right, my friends, welcome aboard. Thank you for tuning in. We want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I want to give a couple of shout-outs right away. I think we've got, I thought I saw thrash metal riffs out there. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate it. I want to give a quick shout-out to Michael B. for giving us a shout-out on best live videos of his best YouTube videos of 2018. And we got nominated as best live videos. And I really appreciate that. And I kind of agree with him. Not that I'm the best, but I'm saying what I agree with him is that do you think with this live, with the platform of YouTube, you'd see more people doing live, live streaming or, whatnot. But hey, not everything's for everybody, and everyone really, does what they want. A lot of great contenders, a lot of great candidates that he mentioned out there, great YouTubers out there. And just I want to thank him for that. He's a great guy. We got a lot of great YouTubers out there. Joe Winch from Joe Winch Project. Oh, you guys, Joe Winch, what's happening, my friend? Thank you for tuning in. Haha, you rock on. Guitar Hack. Yet another Les Paul, my friends. Another Les Paul. And of course, we got the infinite. You want a cup of Morning Joe? You taste better out of the Joe Winch Project coffee mug. You see, my friends? Now, of course, a lot of our friends out there. Ed Dana, really appreciate everything that you do, my friend. Love your videos. Suave Trainwreck. And of course, Guitar Hack. And Guitar Hack, I like when you do your rehearsals and your live gigs out there. What's really cool about this is that people get a chance to see what it's like. And, you know, that's why I like putting the phone behind me so you could see what we see from the stage point of view, you know, what we see out there and how how it sounds to us. If we're not using any type of amplifiers in the back and we're going direct and those speakers are in front of us, you get like a muffled sound. So it's really something that everyone needs to see. So they get like kind of all points of view, all kind of perspectives in live performances. Plus, I also want to thank everyone that chimes in on the friendly guitar challenges that I put up. I actually got part of that idea when Rick Romanelli, and I thank you so much, Rick, for posting up another mention on our channel. I really appreciate it. But when Rick gave the Les Paul challenge, I thought, wow, this is really cool. So that's why I did it on the Gibson, a little bit jazzy number. Because the Gibson has all the pull pots and all the different tone variations, where this little Epiphone, it's just, you know, there's no coil tapping or anything like that. But really, a couple reasons why I wanted to do, and I'm going to continue with all sorry guys, we got a notification. I just wanted to, you know, I'll watch that later. But the reason why I wanted to do the friendly guitar challenge is, one, is just when I did the blues thing, part of the reason is people are so under the assumption that Chicago blues really is nothing, is more, it's all this, you know. Part of it is, but you have stuff that's very much groove oriented, and you know, the artist I used to hear growing up in the city, downtown Chicago, was like really down the street from where I lived at. So everything was groove oriented. So it was kind of a mixture of jazz and funk and blues and all that. So that's why I put up that first video. And then I thought, okay, well, why don't we do some more friendly guitar challenges? It reminds me of when I get together with my best friends, Andy and Angel, and Louie and Robert Perez and Yvonne Pena. We get together and have these massive jam sessions. And it's just good friends hanging out, just totally improvising on the fly, chord progressions, and coming up with different ideas. So that's kind of what that reminded me, because I consider all you guys out there my friends, my good best friends, guitar buddies, you know, the guitar family. So that was yet another reason why I started with these friendly guitar challenges. But another reason why I did is just to see how people could understand the ideas that they could come up with up against a chord progression if, let's say, they ever got the opportunity to do studio work. Because I used to get that, you know, back in Chicago, and of course before I met my wife. And the last studio session, Deb and I were already married, and it was at a friend's studio. A band, they needed like a Santana type of guitar solo. So they hired me, they paid me, I don't know, it was $50 for like a 30-second guitar solo. I think it actually timed into, you know. They didn't have that much money, and, you know, they were good friends of mine, so, yeah, it worked out. But this is what it is. What could you guys come up with as far as like creative writing, songwriting, or anything? And I want to also wish everyone a Merry Christmas, because later on I will be putting up some Christmas videos and some Christmas songs. And all you guys do some great jobs out there. I want to thank you and just compliment you on the Friendly Guitar Challenge. Everybody that participated, what makes it so great is that it's your perspective on the chord progressions that I was playing, and you're playing stuff that I might have thought of or might have overlooked. It's so weird, guys, because when I watch other people play, I watch as a fan. I don't sit there with my arms crossed, you know. Is he shredding or is he not shredding? Oh, he played that note wrong. Oh, he's out of tune here. I don't look at it like that. I get inspired. So that's why, you know, when I watch people play, I'm not real critical, you know.
Maybe next Saturday we could do a Christmas show in the Lanai.
I think we'll do a Christmas show in the Lanai next Saturday. See? Boss has just spoken. Thank you, sweetheart. Yeah, we used to do our live Christmas shows at the Warehouse Church, which we missed doing those. And also at the New Song Church. Both of them were in Aurora, Illinois. And we really missed those people. They were great people. And Quentin James, what's happening, my friend? You know, again, GT Guitars. Hey, welcome aboard, my friends. Michael B. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Again, really appreciate it, man. Hope you guys' weekend is going great. And I know Guitar Hack, you've been quite busy yourself with, playing in different bands, and sometimes that's what you have to do, but it keeps you busy. And are the gigs are treating you well up there? I hope they are. 'Cause I know you guys are starting to get some colder weather up there, We're getting some of the cooler weather down here, but nothing like Canada, man. When these people say down here it's cold, it's like 60 degrees and they're freezing, they're shivering. I go like this, cold, you're cold. Cold? It's 60 degrees and I'm in my shorts and shorts. You're cold. But it does get damp. It's a damp 60 degrees because, again, we're off the Gulf Coast. So we get that, that breeze, yeah. Oh, you're done for the year, Dave, yeah. We have maybe 2 or 3 gigs coming up. I don't think we're doing any New Year's Eve gigs. Gasper Boo, what's happening? Thank you for tuning in, man. Yeah, I don't think we have any New Year's Eve this year, which I'm kind of glad. I mean, I don't mind doing New Year's Eve. Our gig we did last year, it was at La Corte, and we did it, and it was, I want to say it was early, but it wasn't, out of control. Like years ago, man, it'd be so out of control. And this is when we'd be playing in full bands. This is when you'd have the video camera, the VHS tape, and that big monster, But it'd be so out of control, and the drunks, and the sloppiness, and they step on your chords, they step on your pedals, and they don't mean any harm. How long have you had that Epiphone? Joe Winch, we've had this, I think, since 2009. Now, this is the second version. I had another one. It's exactly like this, the Les Paul, they call this the Studio Deluxe. Made in China, of course. And, okay, what happened with this, the reason why we got this, I was teaching, and you know how you have it on a guitar stand? I was teaching at the school, and, the rooms were nice and padded and that, and a nice padded seat. But I went to answer my phone, and when I went to answer my phone, I hit the stand, the guitar fell. It hit the headstock right here on a nice thick padded chair, but these are very bottom heavy, so it put a crack. It put like a V crack back here. Now, I didn't know how deep that crack was because, as you could see, you can't see the wood. And as these the headstocks are, they're 2 separate pieces of wood. My old Jackson Dinky Reverse, I since it was unfinished, flat mat finished neck, I was able to see where the neck joint was, and it was kind of like that, like an upside down V shape, or horseshoe type of shape. So I was under the assumption that maybe that's how this was. So, we had, in 3 days after that happened, we had another very high-end corporate gig we had to do at the Fairmount Hotel, downtown Chicago. And I was nervous. I thought, okay, if this crack is deep and I go to tune my guitar, it snaps the headstock. Right as I'm playing, it's going to look like amateur night. And these people had already paid us, so I was like, okay. And there's a guy at Kramer Guitar Works in Aurora, Illinois that I could take the guitar to. But it takes a while. So the first Epiphone Les Paul was $299. So Deb says, okay, well, it's off sale now. It's $399. And Deb says, all right, well, this being the gig's paid for, and we want to set a good impression, so we just went to Guitar Center and bought another guitar. And that other one we sold to a friend of ours. Yeah, the white Les Paul reminds me of Randy Rhoads. I used to have a white Gibson SG. This was back in 1985. I was doing all these trade-ins. I was being real stupid, young and stupid. And I had that white SG for maybe about 2 weeks, maybe a week, I can't remember. It was so long ago. Maybe it was a week. And it was owned by an Elvis impersonator, Rick Sarasoni, or something like that. If R2R3 Locking Nut tunes in or watches the replay on this, he might have heard the guy's name. He was a big Elvis guy, Elvis impersonator, of course, in the Chicagoland area. Well, it was his guitar. He sold it, traded in, or whatever. It was a nice guitar. And these aren't too bad either, but I do agree with Guitar Hack out there when it comes to, if you're going to buy a Gibson, because there is a difference between the Epiphone and the Gibson. As soon as you pick them up, man, no comparison, you know. But this guitar has been very reliable in the tuning part. And when you're doing outdoor gigs and you're doing gigs where, let's say if you're in a club, you don't want to bring expensive gear, this is where stuff like this is really good to go for. You know what I mean? And it's not the whole debate when I said about advertising for today's show is low end gear versus high end gear. You know, it isn't one is better than the other, although the higher end gear, that old saying, you pay for what you get, that is very, very true. Because some of these guitars, the pickups will be microphonic. Now, I got lucky with this. Because I played this at a couple of outdoor gigs where I had the volume cranking loud, man. I mean, loud. And I used this guitar, and I didn't have any problems with tuning. I didn't have any problems with humming. Because, you know, microphonic pickups, after a while, you'll hear like this weird hum. Especially if you go in between the pickups, it's like they're trying to cancel each other out or something really bizarre, you know. On my other channel, it's under my name, you'll see me where I do, it's called, what, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, or something like that. Where I'm playing, I'm using this guitar and I'm playing Led Zeppelin's Since I've Been Loving You. And the volume was cranked. And I used the Digitech pedal. I used everything low, basically what we consider low end. And as we all know, it's outside of the ceiling of the stage. When you play outside, there's no ceiling. So when you crank things up, and you're only going to really crank it enough if it's going to go mic, you know, you're going to mic up the amp. But when you're playing outside, and later you're going to play with the band, you got to have that volume cranked up because now your space on stage, you're further away from each other, and the sound is blowing all over the place. So yeah, you got to crank up the amp. So this is where you could tell how low-end gear, how good it really is. It's when you got to crank it up. So there is a lot of truth to what people had said about, yeah, but if you spend this much money and you know, if it's only good buy, let's say these new Fender amps that's coming out, the Champion series, the Champion 50 XL. I saw a guy do a demo just the other day. It's a great little amp, but as soon as he cranked up on the second channel, and I think he had the gain on 12 o'clock and he cranked up the volume, you could start to hear where it was like, I don't know, the amp wanted to explode or something, you know. But you see, I'm not in the room with him, and I don't know how loud that volume was. Chances are that volume is definitely loud enough. You mic it. If the drummer has some monitors, you'll be able to hear each other, you know. But see, and even Guitar Hack, I'll agree with you. Yeah, when you buy cheaper gear, it's when you crank it up. Because tube amps, when you got 20 watts of tube power, that's almost like 50 watts of solid state power. I mean, tube amps, you got that big transformer, you got a lot of muscle there, you got a lot of push. But now here is the flip side. When you play in some of these clubs, they want the volume down. You know, it's almost like that's as loud as they want it. You know, it's like, are you kidding me? But that's the reality. So now here you go with buying, you know, smaller gear, and it works in the smaller clubs, and it works all right, you know. Let's see. But I will say this. You're getting a lot more bang for your buck nowadays than ever before. GT, my Gibson Les Paul is a beast, and I have yeah, with a 20 watt tube amp GT. Yeah, you know exactly how loud 20 watts could be. Tubes. You know, it's funny. A lot of us remember back in the days of the 80s, you know, when everyone had to have the stack, except I couldn't afford one, so I had the little amp. I wish I never got rid of that Marshall I had. That Marshall right now is very, very rare. Very rare. And boy, was I stupid to get rid of it. But so, yeah, Janice, it's good seeing you. Janice, I'm going to start putting some guitar licks to that video that you sent. You gave me a link to your video, your blues video. It was great. You got some great stuff there. So I'll start participating in some of you guys' friendly challenges too, and you could like it or not like it. I mean, not that you guys wouldn't, but it'd be in respect to you guys, you know. And I'm not gonna try to play 1,000,000 miles a minute just to say, look how fast he can play. It's whatever fits, you know. See, when you're young, you want to outdo everybody. Well, thank you, Janice. I appreciate it. No rush, but yeah, I definitely want to do it justice. But when you're young, you know, you think you're gonna take the world by the balls, and you're gonna conquer is what you're gonna do, until you find out what happens. No one expected rap music to take off, right? Go figure. Back in the day, everyone's buying, you know, 2 and 3 Marshall stacks. Nothing but the best, and here comes some kid with a drum machine and starts rapping and starts busting rhymes, and like, oh my God, this is a new sensation. You know, kind of sad, but it's the truth. What happened, you know. Jason Wade, how you doing? We are doing great. We hope everyone's gonna have a great Christmas. I'll put up some Merry Christmas videos before Christmas, and I'll probably get on and wish everybody Merry Christmas the day off. You know, I do have a doctor's appointment I have to go to on the 24th. You know, but no big deal. I'll be able to recover from that. But yeah, you know what? There is a difference between this, okay? Let's go on. I'm going to get on to like a... Sorry about that, guys. You know how it is. So yeah, there is a difference between this... I gotta do this. We had to take our cats to the vet earlier today. Get the standard, you know, the procedures with the shots and that. The little kittens, so you know how that works. Now, there is a difference as soon as you pick it up. Now, this is a 2013 model Gibson. They call this the Les Paul Standard Plus because of the pull pots. This one right here on the bridge, I don't know why they thought of coming up with bypassing all the electronics. It really does not boost. It doesn't really boost the signal at all. But for whatever reason, that's cool. Okay, so, but as soon as you pick up a Gibson, oh yeah, I was just saying, excuse me, this body is a very slight chambered, which I was never a fan of chambering out a body of a Gibson. I'm old school. You pick it up, it's heavy. Yep, that's a Gibson, you know. But see, nowadays, everyone's got older and they got back problems and they still want to play their Gibsons, so, you know. Now, these are different pickups compared to the Epiphone. But what you're going to notice, and I think Guitar Hack, you're going to definitely, Guitar Hack and GT and Joe Wentz, because you got that Gibson Studio. I guarantee your Gibson Studio is going to be a lot more solid than the Epiphones. The Epiphone, I don't know if they're using, they say it's mahogany, maybe it's kind of a low-grade mahogany, and I'm not trying to put them down, because the guitar is very reliable. But there is a difference when you play it before you even plug it in, because, you know, you could feel it vibrate against your body very strongly, and it's not because I got the amp on, because when I turn the volume down, I could just feel this very solid, strong resonance, you know? It's just ringing, it's just... Whereas this, it rings, but it's not as solid, if that makes any sense. Yeah. And of course, the electronics are going to definitely make a difference, you know, the tone woods help, guys. But the electronics always kind of outdo the tone woods because it's the electronics. But there is this little bit of a controversy that's out there. Does tone woods really matter? Okay. Well, they must matter to some degree, because why would Eddie Van Halen and other manufacturers that follow, including the Ibanez and my Camelot guitar, or our Camelot, everything is ours. My wife is always #1 and the guitars are #2, right? Then why would they get the idea to mount the pickups directly to the body as opposed to just a ring casing, you know? So there is, it's so minute, it's so hard to hear by the ear, you know what I mean? Yeah, this 16, oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking, I thought you said a 60 cycle hum or something, you know what I mean? I mean, there is going to be some truth to all this stuff, you know? And it goes back to the same, you know, subject of, is expensive gear better than cheaper gear? Well, you know, I think it was Pooh Ninja said it best on the reply or on the comments on the video I put up. It's really what you could afford, and that is the truth. It's really what you can afford. I will never say not to buy the Helix, because the the person that really convinced me that that is a great effect unit, honestly, out of everyone I've seen a lot of great videos, but the one that really would be the person that I would say, because of this person, now I could say that I think it's a great unit, is JJ's House of Jams. Because he did with he's got the exact same Zoom Q2 camera, that blue camera, and he did a video of him just plugging into his cabinets right there on the spot, just like if you were to walk into a music store and plug in. No editing, no beefing up the sound, no downloading, nothing. Right out of the box, plug it in, here it is. I like that, because that's going to give you a sense of true sound, how it's, how it's going to sound. So that would be very convincing right there. But the unit is like, what, $1,500? And a lot of work went into that. A lot of engineering went into that to get that effect unit to do what it does. And if I were to plug that in and A/B it against this Digitech, as far as tone-wise, the tone on the Helix would be probably 10 times to 100 times probably more pronounced as far as its push. If I want to roll down my volume on the guitar, I could still hear a little bit of hissing way in the background to let me know that, yeah, it is a digital modeling effect unit. And then it didn't really zoop up like I heard the Helix do. So that's where these units, the Helix, the Fractal, the Kemper, the 11 rack, and all these other high-end gear, that's where I could say, yeah, I agree 100% to that. But now, how often are you going to drag that expensive piece of gear out and you do an outdoor gig? And have you ever noticed, my friends out there, have you ever gone to these events, or you see them advertise, classic car show, we're going to have music, they'll hire your band and play. And then they have the statement, rain or shine. That means the event goes on, rain or shine. And let's say they do put you under a tent. And sometimes if you don't have your own tent that's nice where the sides are covered, it's just a top canopy. But we all know that, nothing's perfect, and we don't live in a perfect world, and rain never falls just straight down. When the wind blows, it's going to blow it this way, it's going to blow it that way, and guess what's going to get wet? Your effect pedals. So I would be really reluctant taking something that's really super expensive out, and I've taken our guitar synthesizer out, and sometimes I've regretted it because I had to really wipe it down. I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to take this thing out too much anymore, because some of the areas we play at, it gets destroyed. That was like $800 there, The Digitech was, now you get like $150. So my point that I make when I make these statements is not to say that, yeah, look at Dave, he's buying cheap gear, don't buy expensive gear. No, buy what you want and buy what you really like, because everyone's fighting for the same market if you really think about it. But it's when you have to do show after show after show, and you're in these areas that are kind of like, all right, iffy, and when your equipment gets destroyed, you know what I mean? That's where it gets heartbreaking, because it's like, okay, let's say you got your favorite Les Paul, it's a guitar you saved up, you've wanted it. Michael B will be live in 30 minutes. I'll make sure I don't go over, because we want to respect our good friend Michael B. You'll never guess what I just did, Guitar Hack. Oh, Jason Wade. Oh, you bought a P90 guitar. Hey, Guitar Hack, I love the sound of that Les Paul with those P90s, man. I have an old 1980 Gibson catalog that has the artist, the Gibson artist, the artisan, the custom, of course, the deluxe with the mini humbuckers, then the standards, of course. Back then, you didn't have traditional, you didn't have classic, you didn't have some of the other models. It was just either the standard, then you had the Firebrand series, which was like they did a reissue, but they didn't firebrand the headstock. It's a flat top Les Paul. Reconnecting. You're live again. Well, I'm sure and hope I'm not dead. Sorry about that, guys. But the Gibson, they had a series of guitars. Even they had like a 335 model, but it was solid body. Of course, it's a lot but smaller. Flat top, all wood finish, just like what you see like the Faded series. But it was a little bit lighter wood. You had a choice. You could get in walnut wood, mahogany, and I think another type of wood. But the headstock Gibson, it was branded into the headstock. The Gibson name was branded. You know, so they probably called the Firebrand series, I think it was. But you really didn't have a whole lot of different choices like we have now. Now, I think Guitar Hack, you have a Sunburst Les Paul that has the same thing. R2, R3 locking nut. Thank you for tuning in, man. And I mentioned your name earlier, R2, about a certain thing in the Chicagoland area, because you're still in Chicago. I forget, you know. Anyways, all right. So the coil tapping on our Les Pauls, right? You remember any of the Gibson, the 335s, that the model that became the BB King model that had the big rotary switch, and some of the old Les Pauls had that rotary switch. Basically, that's really what this is. You can hear that kind of like a honky sound or like that funky, quacky sound. That's when you pull out the tone knob on the neck pickup. That's coil tapping, and then this is full humbucker. It really works best when you combine it, when you have your toggle switch combining both neck and bridge pickup, because here's where the magic lies. Then you can turn down the volume on the tone, the treble, bridge pickup. You bring it up, you can kind of alter. You see, yeah, my Studio Deluxe has those. Yeah, same coil tapping. What they did with the bridge pickup tone is, I've done this before. As soon as I got all my volumes down now, right? Nothing. When I pull out my bridge pickup, it just bypasses electronics. Honestly, I really don't think. Pooh Ninja, thank you for popping in. And Mr. Pooh Ninja, I agree with you 100% of what's your comment. Low-end gear versus high-end gear. When you said it's really what you could afford, boom, you just nailed it. You just absolutely nailed it. Now, I've had friends, sound engineers, on some of the live gigs we've done back in Illinois and down here, and everyone seems to use the like an iPad for mixing. And then because everything is digital, it's a little bit more sensitive. If you have, let's say, a Fender Strat pickup, and when you put it in a 5-way switch, you don't get that hum, but as soon as you put it all the way, bzz, you get that hum. Of course, it's going to register through their on their levels and that. So the cheaper the gear, the less detail to the electronics, therefore it's going to be noisier. This is where I absolutely agree with a lot of people. Okay, that's when you want to change out the pickups or do whatever. But there are some people out there that simply can't afford some of this stuff, and there's nothing wrong with buying low-end gear and learning how to use it in those situations, because, like you experienced this too, Guitar Hack, a lot of the gigs, they want you to tune down, or not tune, but turn your volume down real low. So you're not going to hear all this. And I think you've also mentioned that you had your Hughes and Kettner and you had the volume like barely past 1, if that, and then the drummer, the guy walking across the stage, you could hear his shoes louder than your amp, because the owner says, oh my God, it's going to be loud, The whole perception, everything has changed in live and performing live. Therefore, some of this gear that is cheaper, it will do the job at these gigs. And if a person is, either if they're started buy less expensive gear first before you blow your money. Unless you have the money to blow, then you do what you want. But I always suggest people, even if they're a touring musician, I've ran into a lot of touring musicians. I'll never use that at a tour. Well, cover bands that are actively playing, their gear is being banged around just as much as a touring musician. Because a touring musician that's either headlining or the three bands under the headlining, you probably, if you're headlining, the most you'll do is maybe 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. A cover band's got to do 4 sets, 4 hours. And like a lot of you seen my live gigs, I'll do them straight through and Mike will take the break. Which I want to give a happy birthday shout out to my vocalist, Michael G. Today's his birthday. He's turned 51. He's going from 50 to 51, so 5150, right? There you go. But, so your gear is getting banged around just as much as a touring band. And if low-end gear can handle some of this banging around, but you don't have to spend that much money, that's really when you come out ahead, because it's nothing worse than your prize guitar gets all banged up and now you feel like, oh man, I didn't want that to happen. It's like my museum guitar, or my studio guitar, I know it sounds crazy to some people, but I would tell people, touring musicians, go out and buy those cheaper amps and cheaper effects, So if something happens, it becomes like the throwaway pedal, It's easy to replace $150 than it is $1,500, But some of the guys, they'll have 2 of everything, Except wives. Don't have 2 wives. That's a no-no. If you have a wife, don't have a girlfriend on the side, because, yeah, she'll be the one on stage, and of course you'll be backstage with your tail between your legs, losing everything, right? Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but just don't. But so if you got the money to afford, 2 of everything, 2 Helix, 2 Fractal systems, 2 Friedman amps, by all means, always have that backup system, because when you do festivals, you do anything outdoor, outside, you are at the mercy of the elements. And there is nothing perfect out there, and I don't care who made what and how much craftsman they put into it. If a hurricane comes blowing through, you and all your gear is going to go blowing with the hurricane, and that's the end of that. And that's the reality, We all know stuff. We all know that, Yeah, 2 Fractals, yeah. And again, it's all what you want, We've always would have 2 of everything at least. Especially adapters, cords, tubes. If you're going to use tube amps, always have a supply of tubes with you if you can. If it's a situation where you could swap the tubes out without having doing any bias, go ahead and do it. Yeah, we get it, Dave. She knows you care because, yeah, you got to, man. Hey, old saying, happy wife, happy life. Okay, at a gig, yeah, let's see what Guitar Hack said here. Oh, come on. Hey, your stuff has to work. It has to work, Guitar Hack. It has to work. Now, this is where the high-end gear versus the cheap gear, this is where, okay, there's a little controversy, because when you're doing this to make money, and you love it, you turned your craft into a business, okay? Because I don't want to just say this is all about money, but you do have to think in terms like this. And you're selling your act or yourself to a club owner or to a person that's planning an event, and you have to advertise it as the reason why you should be making this much money is because you're worth this, your act is all together, blah, blah, blah. They're gonna get value for their money. The worst thing to do is go in there with gear that's going to start to fall apart. When we used to do construction, these guys, back in the earlier to mid-2000s, when Ryobi, and I don't want to bash any brand, but Ryobi is a good brand, and they stepped up their game, but they made their cordless drills, like for the Weekend Warrior, But when you're on a job site, 8 hours, 9 hours a day, every single day, helping to build these $1,000,000 homes, you're out in the elements. It's constant, go, use. They have to hold up. And some of these tools have been within a couple of months, they break down, and guess what? The guy, like we would have our DeWalt's or our Makitas, we would have them for years and then no problems. The battery, we would have no problems with the battery, you know? So it's the same concept with the gear, with guitar gear. You go out there with stuff that's going to start to fall apart. The person that's hiring you, the first thing that comes to their mind is like, oh, I thought you had this together. You know, now there's an excuse, okay? This is falling apart. It sounds like crap. When the audience who don't play and they don't care what it says on the headstock, right? When they notice that something sounds funny, then there's a problem. Because otherwise, they could care less if it's Paul Reed Smith, if it's Gibson, if it's Fender, Squier. They don't cares. No one cares. They care about the drink and the girls that they're chasing after. That's what they care about. But your gear has to work. Because it's at the end of the day when you go to collect your pay, and then if there's an issue, cheaper gear also, guys, and you might have noticed this, the volume, you get these weird volume spikes. You go to adjust the volume, and it'll go from number 1 to like number 10 instantly. The volume, just these weird volume spikes. And then everyone said, hey, what the hell happened, you know? That's when you start knowing. Let's see, GTTV. I've seen big bands use cheap gear off to the side while the expensive gear was on stage, turned off a lot. Yeah. I remember back in Chicago, the Loop, FM 9, well, it used to be FM 98, then it was 97.9. Now the Loop is gone. Local rock station. They would have Loop Fest. And, okay, so you got to get back to work. All right, Guitar Hack, you have a great one. I'm going to try to tune in on tomorrow. You got Rick Romanelli on tomorrow. I'm going to try to tune in. We got the Bears and Packers game going, you know what I mean? So, a lot of us Midwesterners, we're going to check out the game. But we'll try to tune in. But yeah, I think it was the band Great White. Played at Loop Fest. And I don't know if any of you guys remember when Crate was still in business, and Crate had I think it was not the Blue Voodoo, but they had their club series, all tube, all valve amps. The guy, he had a 212 version of one because a friend of mine had the exact same amp. Right on stage, mic'd, and sounded awesome, you know. Although he probably might have modified it. I suck just as much on a Tom Anderson as a Hello Kitty. Well, Quentin James, you know, excuse me. When people say that they suck, it's your perception, what you hear, because I hear myself. I live in my own body, you know what I mean? So I hear myself all the time. And I don't always watch everything I do. I watch it to see what I can improve on. But I always watch other people to get my inspiration. And when a person says that they suck at one thing, I can watch them play. I'm like, I liked it. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it just to be nice. I'm saying it because I could see things. Because in my mind, I'm still that kid that was growing up watching bands play. That enthusiasm never left me. And maybe that's one of the reasons why when people ask me, where do you get your drive from? You could be playing to nobody and you're playing like it's a packed house. It's because I simply love to play. I never lost that drive. And it's kind of magical when you watch people play. You know what I mean? And I never lost that. So, but you're right. I've seen people use expensive gear, and I've seen people use cheap gear. And you're going to alter a little bit. Suave Trainwreck, he mentioned about this. If basically, let's say if you give Eddie Van Halen a hollow body jazz guitar, he'll still be able to play Eruption, but he's going to approach it differently because the whole guitar is a different animal. Like, Eruption is Spanish Fly done on the nylon string guitar. Well, obviously it's two different animals because there's no electronics, okay? When you plug in a hollow body, and I'm talking about a hollow body jazz guitar, at some point you got to find some way to put some sort of insulation in between the pickups, because when you crank up those amps, it's going to howl and feedback. Back in the day, Ted Nugent, he had those guitars under control, and he'd go through like a wall of Fender Twins, and If anyone's ever owned a Fender Twin, you know how loud those amps are. And he have them cranking, man. And he just, boy, he had that animal under his belt, controlled, mastered it, you know. But you see, back then, when a lot of us were starting to buy gear, to us, cheap was when you got the Sears Roebuck catalog and you ordered a guitar that would look like a SG. And, I mean, you could tell maybe it was plywood or something, you know. So now here kind of go back into the tone which really matter. Can you go to Home Depot, buy some lumber, shape it into a guitar, and put some pickups on it? Because now, see, this is where you can really start to, if a person wants to debate tone, do tone woods matter on your sound, on your electric guitar sound? Okay, well then go to Home Depot, buy some lumber, start shaping a guitar. You know, buy some oak, buy some, you know, popular wood. The Fender Strat I got is made out of popular wood, you know. I think a lot of the Ibanez uses popular or basswood. But go ahead and use these cheap woods and experiment, you know. That's going to tell you, right there, proof in the pudding, as they say, that the wood will matter. But now, being that aside, the electronics do reign over that, but, you know, being that aside, when it comes down to low-end gear, if you can make this low-end gear sound good, and you get through a performance, and you're saying, you know, it doesn't really sound that bad. Okay, it's not my... I do like the Hughes and Kettner amps, by the way, because I have a solid-state one, but I do like those Tube Meisters and the Tri-Amp. I plugged into a half-stack one time, and wow, I was blown away. And the old Marshall. So there is something that needs to be said with the tube amps having that muscle. There's nothing like them. I don't care what these companies do. They will get dangerously close, but when you put it side by side, yeah, you'll be able to tell the difference. But let's say you got hired to do a gig and you had to borrow my Digitech, okay? And you don't have to like Digitech. I'm not endorsed by any of these people, and I kind of like that because I'm a free agent. I could say and do what I want, come and go as I please. No one owns me except my wife. And I don't say that in a bad way. I say that in a very good way. But let's say any of you guys, you had a gig coming up, someone's going to pay you $500. Do a solo gig. Just do a half hour. If you want to call it noodling, go ahead, call it noodling. If you want to use a loop pedal and put some tracks together, go ahead. $500, here's a contract, guaranteed cash. And you did not have access to your gear, and let's say someone had something that you really don't like, but that's what you had to use. Would you be able to get through that gig? Chances are you would be able to. Chances are you guys really, and guys and gals would be able to. And the reason why I say that is you would start to look at it like, okay, I only have X amount of time to get my sound together. I could deal with this sound, and now it's going to come out of 100% you, your hands, controlling your playing. So when people say the sound comes from your hands, well, part of it does, but it's going to be your touch, your attack on the strings, your vibratos and things of that nature. You don't get distortion out of your hands. If you do, let me know, and then I'll quit buying distortion pedals. You know. But the reality is, if you had to, this is where the situation pops up. Oh, the nut popped off. Yeah, now this is where you have, yeah, it popped the high E string. The question is, Buck Lester have? Yeah, see, here's where you got too with issues with cheaper gear. You have sometimes the nut will go off. It'll just pop off. Tones will get all messed up. New strings never came out of the package. Oh, hello from Brady. Hey, how's it going? Tim Coombs, what's happening, my friend? Back out of the bat cave. Like Quentin James says. Alright, now here's another thing. When you start mentioning strings. Alright, how many of you out there buy into, yeah, beer and I see the footballs, yeah. The Bears, go Bears, right? Right, R2? I I'm not saying that string gauge. White Christmas says Shauna Marie sings. She's got a video she's putting up. Good. She's got a great voice. Shauna Marie sings. Yeah, I really like your stuff. I like all you guys' stuff out there, as a matter of fact. Again, I'm not trying to be the fanboy. It's just everyone's got something different, and that's, I like that. Okay, string gauges, you are going to get different sounds, different tones. The thicker the string, it will have a more meatier sound. And I've done that with this Warlock, where even though I've got it drop down to D, I got a 59 gauge on my low E, and just like a 13 or something like that. And yeah, it is a nice guitar. I will be using this a lot more, my friends. But I've had people say on one recording studio session I was doing about fresh strings versus older strings, and not if they're too old, they can't stay in tune and they sound dull. That's a different thing. But this guy that had this recording studio, he claimed, I got pissed at the Ben Miller guy series. Oh yeah, why the series of Why You Suck? Yeah, well, see, here's the deal. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I try to respect everyone's opinion. To me, it's when they want to say, guess what, guys? That's not going to work in the mix. When you go out to do a live gig, this is not going to work. That's not going to work. You have to do this. And none of them put up videos of them actually saying what they're doing, what they're saying. No one does, And I'm not trying to knock anybody. You are going to, I don't care if you buy the best gear out there, you are going to have a situation, if you do an outdoor festival and you got a voltage drop somewhere, you know what I mean? Because everyone decides to plug out of the same thing. Alright, it's going to affect your amp draw, and don't you think at some point that's going to affect how your gear is going to run? I mean, seriously. Now, unless you just buy battery-powered stuff, which Robert Guitar Dungeon had a great video. Was it seven gifts for Christmas under $100? And he had another one he threw in there. But one of them was like a power supply that is rechargeable. So if it doesn't need to be plugged in. So you can plug all your pedals in this thing and it's self-powered. That's cool. That's great, because now you're not relying on a line source, a wall socket or something. And if there's some bad grounding situations going on, it's going to come through your sound. You can't stop that, But my point is when you get some of these people, and I agree with you, some of these guys got, why you suck, or what's the best way to practice? It's only guitar. Only guitar, you see these type of videos, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody or knock anybody, but there's a reality. Everybody's built different. I had a friend of mine that I thought, I never heard of this before, but he had a skin condition, so nickel wound strings, he had a hard time playing because it would just do something with the tips of his fingers. And it was starting to get to the point where he would get sick. Well, okay, I could start to see this now because he has a skin condition. So there's truth to that. So everybody is different. Everybody's time is different. Some people have families. Some people have like 2 and 3 jobs. So of course they're not going to be able to put the time in to shred up and down the fretboard. And so when these people come up with these videos, why you suck and the best way to practice here, why don't they just say this? This is an intelligent thing to say. It's common sense. Everybody has different priorities. Everyone has a different situation in their life. Try this, it might work for you. If it doesn't work for you, then go ahead, listen to it. If you ask 10 different guitar players, of course you get 10 different answers, You pick the one that's going to work with your situation. I would, when I was teaching heavily back in Illinois, I would tell people, first of all, kids that are in school, study, make sure your homework gets done, because if your personal life, you neglect everything, right? Because someone told you by the end of this week, you got to have eruption nailed, Exactly. So if I close my mind, gee, is it Eddie Van Halen or is it a YouTuber I'm listening to? And then some people, they take this verbatim and then they start neglecting their personal life. And guess what happens? Everything goes down the toilet. It's common sense. That's why I would never give people some advice like that. No, you look at your time frame. You do what works for you. Same with buying the gear. You got the money, go ahead and spend the money. If it's not going to affect your personal life, it's not going to affect your finances, because this is the only time I'll say this. And what I mean by that, this is the only reason why I would say this. If someone tells you, anybody out there, you gotta buy this because so and so is putting together a record label and they want nothing but the best. So if you buy nothing but the best, you're gonna double your chances of getting signed. Who the hell's gonna sign anybody now? As soon as you're done recording something, it's on YouTube and no one can make money. You use Verizon, which we use Verizon. You buy a new phone and you didn't even get done paying for the thing at the cash register. You got 6 months of free unlimited Apple iTunes. That means if you put your music, like my music, on iTunes, everyone else gets it for free. So let me ask you this question: how could you make any money? If a person could tell me, I'll definitely, just on free. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to knock anybody, but at the same time, I see those same videos too, and I never want to put anybody down because everyone's, people say these things when they're young and inexperienced, basically, And I'm inexperienced on things too, so I'm not putting people down. But when it comes down to this, I've been through this for so long, and I've seen ups and downs, and I have yet more to see that a lot of new people are starting to see. But my point is I will never listen to someone tell me I have to buy this, I have to buy that, otherwise I'm not going to get signed, or I'm not going to get discovered, or this, that. And then basically, when I listen to them talk, they're telling me to spend my money, spend my money, spend my money, spend my money. And now how much of that money am I going to get back? When I could take half of what I've spent and buy gear that I like, that's going to do basically the same thing. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't jump on these bandwagons that I see out there, and I don't knock them. But I'm sorry. I'm just, a lot of times I get so done with what I see out there. It's not even funny, and that's what I mean. Low end gear versus high end gear. High end gear should be able to be a little bit of a cut above. It really should, especially when you're dropping thousands of dollars. Because again, if some kid comes with cheap gear and they blow your ass away with cheap gear, it's going to look very embarrassing. It's going to look very embarrassing to the people who it matters to. And you know who the people it matters to? The average Joe that takes his wife and the kids out to see a festival. They have no idea about guitar playing. They just know, you look at it, yeah, that's a guitar. They have no idea, unless, I don't know what kind, it's just a guitar. Is that electric, by the way? Oh, it's electric guitar. See, that's how much they know about it. But you see, those are the people that are going to pay your salary. Joe Schmo, that's going to blow sunshine in your ear. That's going to tell you have to this, that, and the other. I'm not saying they won't help you, but get them to pay your bills all the time when it's going to be the general public that's going to come out to see you. So I value those people as just as much as, or in fact, a little more, I should say. Again, it's not to say I'm a big shot, because I'm not a big shot, but I just have the experience. I've been through it for so long, But at the same time, again, there's nothing like plugging into something that, go thousands of dollars, so you pick it up, it's like, wow, this feels great. If you have the money, go ahead and spend the money. If you don't, be careful. That's all. Okay, yeah, here we are. But yeah, I used a Furman voltage regulator because my tube amps have to run. Yeah, see, this is what I mean, R2, R3. This is great advice right here, man. Yeah, that right there. See, and R2, you know that some of these buildings in Chicago are old, and when people have to update a building and they have to update the electricity, everyone doesn't want to spend money. They want to put the money in their pocket. If they have to replace a light switch, it's always, what's the cheapest I could replace it that's going to do just as good? You know what I mean? And I know this because when I used to do HVAC, these builders, you're buying $1 million house, but could you give me a break on this? Could you give me a break on that? You know what I mean? So, of course, everyone wants to make more money, put it in their pocket as opposed to out there. So, yeah, those Furmans, I know they do work great. Again, we're live again. Sorry, guys. GTTV says, my old lead guitar player used a Zoom effect processor into a Randall solid state amp. We were on break at a gig, and this dude who played in another band told him his tone, oh, I know exactly where you're going, his tone sucked. He said, that's cool, enjoy, watch. You see, GTV, I used to get that a lot, man, because I couldn't afford the stuff that these guys had. They had rich folks, you know, they had money. See, money. If you want, what's the best way? There's two ways. You know, the two ways to get to Carnegie Hall. Well, one is practice. But I'm telling you guys, if you have a crap load of money, you rent the hall out, man. You mean to tell me the guy that owns that property, somebody owns the property? Think about it. It doesn't just appear and it's just magical. Somebody owns that property and they're going to have a downtime. January 2nd, when everyone's passed out from New Year's Eve, no one's doing anything. Hey, I want to do a gig at Carnegie Hall. I could be wrong, guys. I could be wrong. But it's going to sit, let's say it sits that week. You mean to tell me if you don't offer this guy X amount of dollars, he's not going to let you play? Are you kidding me? Let's sign the contract. The money's in my pocket. You got the stage. That's life. Yeah. I had a F5 on that one. Yeah, you know, I had a couple of Zoom pedals. And some of them are kind of, you know, that's okay. But here's another thing. Have you guys ever noticed different effect pedals sound differently through different amps? When I had my old Fender Twin, and the speakers are going to matter too. My old Fender Twin with Altec Lansing speakers. I used a friend of mine. No, I had a Boss DS2, the orange distortion pedal. I plugged it in through my Fender Twin. It sounded nasally. I had to mess with the tone. It sounded hissy. I plugged it through my friend's PV Special 130. It kicked ass. You know what I mean? So it's good to sound different. And that's why when I used to tell my students, whatever it is you're going to buy, bring your guitar with your setup, with your pickups. If you're going to buy an amplifier, you have your effects. If you can, bring your effects, plug it into the amp, because that's going to be your sound out of that amp. That's the reality. Now, what I said earlier about strings, I did this, well, it's one of the recording sessions I've done. The guy tells me, go ahead and you got to put brand new strings on. I could tell, yes. He says he could tell if the strings are a week old or something like that. Or he had supersonic ears, he claimed. So, but you know, when you put strings on, you got to stretch them out. And it gets worse if you have a nylon string guitar, you got to stretch them out. So I can't remember. No, it was my electric guitar. I put new strings on. But I put them on like 2 weeks prior to the session. And I practice a lot. And I make sure I wipe the fretboard down and clean the strings. So we go to the recording studio. And he tells me, Dave, so you got new strings on that guitar, right? I says, yep. Just the other day I put them on. But really, they're 2 weeks old, you know. Plug in and, yep, I could tell. Good job, Dave. You know, good boy, Dave. You know, like the little kid, you know. I'll give you a sucker at the end of here. Good boy, Dave. You know, they always like to talk down to you, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, you got to be the stupidest living human being around, because you just told me you could tell 2 weeks, if the strings are 2 weeks old. And I'm thinking to myself, you have all this high-end gear that you brag about. So you mean to tell me that you cannot make it sound? So you mean to tell me that you cannot make it sound better with all this? You know, you spend millions. Yes, I spend millions of dollars. You know, everything's always bigger than life, and it never really amounts to much of anything, really. And my point is that some of these people are going to tell you things because they either want to make themselves look good. and put you down, because I've had that happen. Or, you know, some of them will have some good advice. The people with good advice, they're going to be flat, straight out honest. They're not going to debate. It's when they debate, you know. And they tell you, you have to this, otherwise no one's going to like you. If you wear gray, no one's going to like you. Well, that's right. Who cares, you know? But it is. It's what you can afford, you know? And, again, you can't tell the difference between digital and analog. Of course, I definitely can't, again, when I want to roll my volume down on my guitar. I'm sure you guys have done the exact same thing. You roll it down, and next thing you know, you get this weird, crackly sound. That's the only thing I don't like. I'm really not a big fan of it. Not much happened, my friends. Guarantee, even though the Susan Kettner is solid state, when I plug into it, you'll notice the difference on the roll down, because it's all analog. You know, that's the difference between digital and analog, and that's would be the difference between tubes versus solid state. Now, this is where everything really matters. Okay, so now here's another thing. Okay, what would a ditto pedal do? A loop. Okay, so you have these loopers out there, the ditto loopers. You know, I think they improved on them. I don't have that particular model, but I'm sorry again, guys. I apologize. The Crafty Jake, thank you for tuning in. What is happening, my friend? Okay, so all right, so when the ditto looper first came out, he did this gig at the Naperville Riverwalk, and he couldn't get the thing to clear out. You know, it was like really hard, function-wise. And I told him at the time I was still using my the Boss RC20 XL loop, but we still have the pedal. That's nice. It'll run on batteries, but it's still limited on how much of a loop you can get. If anyone would ask me if they want to buy a loop pedal, and for about $250, you know, I know the RC300 it's great and everything, but these Jam Man, let me grab the ones I got in the box. That's what I'm using right here, the Digitech Jam Man. Sorry guys, it went out. Now I'm back live again. I just got a message. The guy that bought Le Corte, he bought that fancy restaurant. I sent him a text message when we were on our way back about, you know, when we want to start doing gigs there. He just sent me a message. Yeah, we'll try next week. So when I'm done here, I'll contact him and talk with him and that. Anyways, let me get you guys the box real quick. It's right here. Now, I'm not trying to sell anybody Digitech or any other product. You guys really do what you want. But these right here, my friends, there is nothing out there that is beating these things. Nothing out there. I should say, let me correct myself. I should say virtually, because I honestly don't know how the RC300 is. But you can load up a SD card, and you can get virtually like 5 hours out of this thing, looping. Now, you have 99 slots, so it depends how long those slots are, but you could definitely get infinite loops. You don't have to use the SD card, though. If you don't want to use the SD card, boom, right out of the box, you get the adapter with it. You have your record function here, which will do record, play, and overdub. You have your stop and clear. You have loop up and loop down. And this is where all this magic comes into play, because I can take a song and loop it, and then I could have loop number 1 as my intro, loop number 2 as my verse, loop number 3 as the chorus, loop number 4 as a bridge, and then maybe loop number 5, the last one, as the ending, so I could switch back and forth between, let's say, bridge and chorus, or whatever the case might be. It's incredible what you could do with this. Now, this is why I've always said what I do like about these. Does it have USB? Yeah, it does. Let me just pull this thing out of the box. We got 5 of these. One of them fell, but we went out and got 4 of these because we don't know what's happening with Digitech. So here we go, guys. Here is your USB right there, and there's it takes us a regular size SD card. Of course, that's your power. It will not run on batteries. That's the only thing. That is your XLR for your mic, because I don't want to get people dizzy. You have that would be, I'm sorry, this is your mic level. So if you want to use a microphone, and then there's your let's see, is that your instrument level? That is your, this level out is your loop, you recorded loop. This is, it has like a kick drum. I really don't use it, but, you know. It has stereo ins, stereo ins, stereo outs. Let's see. You have this output right here. It's if you want to run this into, let's say, the monitor by the drummer, and when you start using this, it would be your rhythm level. That's for like your kick. It would be like a click track. It'll send that to another speaker. Function that I personally don't use, and then the extra foot switch is if you want to slow down the tempo. I think it slows down by half, or you could go in reverse. You know. Now, at first I was kind of reluctant because the first version of these you had to have that big flash card. And a friend of mine, R2R3 out there, you might remember the band Blizzard of Oz. Kevin Buck, he's a good friend of mine, great guitar player. Done some shredding shows together. He had the Jam Man, and it had the bigger switch foot pedals, but it was still that big blue pedal. So I was that was kind of like a turn off to me because I was still using the Boss, and the Boss was a lot easier. Until I started messing with one of these at Guitar Center, and I'm like, holy crap, I could do that? Okay. And then when we bought it, and I started really messing with it, hands down, they're the best. Okay, I'm going to turn this loop volume down, because what I got right here, everything that you're hearing is also from the Digitech RP effect unit, the 360 XP. XP is expression pedal. It's got the bass patch in there. So for me personally, when I would get hired out, let me just turn that down. When I would get hired out, I'm sorry guys, I know. Now here's the loop. It's finished the loop. Now it's starting again. Seamless. Real seamless. I could store it, and I could put another part in the next patch next to it, and I could go back and forth. The reason why I personally like using this is that so many times doing corporate gigs, you know, we get paid to do, let's say, 3 hours, and then they'll say, hey, could you stay an extra hour? The event's going longer. That's when I got to start improvising on the fly. That's when these pedals come into play. And then we're making more money, everyone's having a good time, and then we're making all these contacts, and never had to advertise, you know, and that's where a lot of this stuff comes into play. And that's why, for the longest time, we never send anything to record labels. I think we sent something to, oh my God, was it Alligator Records? And Bruce, the owner of Alligator Records, contacted us. He loved the way I played, but it wasn't his style of blues. So, I mean, he politely and respectfully, you know, did not sign me. But he did it with respect, he did it with taste, and he was honest. He liked what I was doing, but it wasn't him, it wasn't be easy for him to market. And I totally understand that and respect that. So in those situations, that's when you got to pull yourself and kind of do for yourself and just go for it. And I'm telling you, when you have gear that's reliable, that you don't have to spend a whole lot of money, this is where you can start making money, because now you're not spending it faster than you're making it. And this is why I have that debate of low-end gear versus high-end gear, and if you could turn your music into any type of business where you want to make money off of it, and it's great. There's nothing like it, you know. It gets challenging when you have to sell yourself, and it's always a fluctuating income, so it's always like that. That's where it gets nervous, you know, kind of scary. Because you have to really plan paying your bills out very wisely. But the travel, it's fantastic. And all this gear that I've used that is considered very low end compared to what's out there, it worked, man. It's been a workhorse for me. So that's why I kind of give it a good thumbs up, you know what I mean? And if it helps people out there who are looking to get into doing looping, or they want to buy their first piece of gear, or what should I do? I'm not the only person that's playing live. There's a lot of people out there. So my best suggestion is, talk to as many friends as you can that play in bands. Not only go out to the clubs at night, but find out in your area where there's an open mic. Watch what they're doing. Watch the entire event. Open mics is a good thing to do because you're seeing people drag their gear in, drag it out, to put off to the side. They have X amount of time to set up, X amount of time to tear down. Everything's got to be done quick, fast, let's go. So this is where you get to see what'll work for you. You know what I mean? So I hope all these tidbits and everything can help people out there. And again, no way am I trying to say my method is better than anybody else. No way at all. It's just that I've got this experience and this has worked for me. Guitar Hack plays in a couple of bands, and it doesn't matter how long he's played. He has under his belt X amount of experience dragging gear from here to there. What works for him? Joe Winch from the Joe Winch Project. He's got experience. Jim Guidry's a great guitar player. Him and his son. Boy, I like jamming to their stuff. Even though that they're doing stuff in their house and posting up the videos, it's something that works. You can contact all these people. I guess probably through Facebook. I'm not Bill Gates, so I still have my issues with all this new technology, and I apologize about that. But my point is that before you buy gear, really look around and then go to the music store and just check it out before you buy. And thank God that like Guitar Centers and some of the big box stores, they have a 30-day or 40-day return policy, because it's when the stuff starts breaking down and then you spend this money and you try to sell it, you can't. And if it's something that's a flash in the pan, don't spend a whole lot of money if you don't have to, because it's when you have to sell the gear and you find out, damn, I spend all this money and that's not worth anything, But on the positive note, there's nothing like playing music, There's nothing like it. It's the greatest thing, And look how many people it pulls together, Sometimes people get on debates and disputes and that, and I never want that to happen. Yeah, with them 4 switches, like you say, you can load, an entire song, 4-part rhythm. Absolutely, thrash metal. Absolutely. You can load an entire song, 4-part rhythms or something like that. I saw your gig and wondered how, I'm sorry, I got to do this, how you got the bass and drums under your foot control. Yeah, it comes basically right out of here. I still have to put together a video where I'm combining the Trio Plus and that S-drum pedal that we have. You could really get into. I think I got to buy another switch. Maybe I don't. I don't know. Get more cords. But yeah, I'll get that up and going. But just because a lot of this stuff is it's considered, older technology, because it's been out for like 4 or 5 years. So the Digitech RP with the foot switch, the $35 foot switch, you go up and down the patches. Here, I'll show you. It's this foot switch right here. It'll come with the cord, something like $35. That with one of these loop pedals is all you really need, my friends, and you could do an entire gig if you especially if you sing. Boom, you could do an entire gig, and you could make some money. But you could do an entire gig. And if someone would ask me, Dave, would you have a chance touring with us? Damn right I would, because I've seen the proof in the performance. You see, I have the Boss external foot switch, FS. I have those too. Yeah, it's here. I got Steve's. I have actually 5 of them. One is a black switch, but see, over the years we acquired so much gear. It's the FS5U pedal foot switch. Now I have 4 of these because we also have the oh God, let me just show you guys. We have the Boss D880 drum machine. Sorry guys. See, I guess I should be more prepared, right? We got all kind of stuff. I keep things if you leave gear out, I leave it in the plastic bag so the dust goes on here and not the drum machine, right? We have the DR5 rhythm section, which I've got back in what, 1991 or whatever it was. And then we got the DR660. That'll run on batteries, just like the DR5, Dr. Rhythm. This will not run on batteries. But this has an effect processor. So you can hook up your foot switches, and there's all your ins and outs. I never use MIDI, but what's nice with this, if you have to tap pad, you got the pads to tap, you have 2 kicks right here, kick drums. So if you had to do double bass, and you get really good with, I mean, boom, right there. So this, it does take a little bit longer if you want to edit it, but when you first plug it in, the patches, they're very usable and they sound great. And you can get in and you start to use fill-ins and intros and outros. This has it. And it also has built-in guitar effects and bass effects. So if you want to run your bass guitar directly into a recording unit, you can. And it's got a nice compression, so you're not going to be clipping, you're not going to get these weird sounds. And the it's still using its old Boss's old Cosm technology, but it works great. But that's why I got those foot switches, so when I'm recording, I could go up and down a patch, I could go to the next parameter, I could add a drum fill and whatnot. But I just use this when I'm recording, because to drag all this stuff out, in a club, and someone, dude, you sound awesome, or dude, you suck, and they spill the beer, psh, there goes the gear. You know what I mean? So, so you essentially make up your backing tracks, yeah, and then load them to the looper. Exactly. Now, I'm going to share with you guys this, because sooner or later it's gonna make common sense. It's real simple, real simple. How I get backing tracks when I have to get anything off of my Tascam here, okay? Because for a while, before I was using the loop pedal, I would record everything to the little Tascam here. So the Tascam has the headphones out. I'm going to show you something with these pedals, and this is why I like these. So you have a headphone jack right there, but you also have an auxiliary in. I don't know if you guys could see that. That auxiliary in, you have a function here that you could call for that straight auxiliary in. So basically, you take a 1/8 chord. Let me get the chord, see? Again, always prepared, right? So if you guys take a stereo 1/8 chord, and let's say you have to load something up that you have in your computer, your own tracks. Even though it's 1 chord, it is a stereo chord. You could plug from the headphones directly into the 1/8 inch, and you could get a clean recording right there. I don't have to download anything, because it's old school technology, of course, but it's something that works, And you see how many times my phone, I have to reset my phone when it goes off. The signal gets off and my face freezes. I'm like that. I lost the signal. So if I had to do anything off of YouTube or whatever, off of my channel, of course, I never want to rip people off. That's not cool. You can't anyways, which I'm glad. But anything that I've recorded, I can instantly. I don't have to worry about downloading. Now, I do have to play the entire song as its entirety. I can't speed it up or anything like that. It's not going to do it that. So if you got a song that's 5 minutes long, you can be sitting there 5 minutes. But the results are, boom. Although that I recorded right from the Digitech, right from it. So, and that right there is okay. That's so some of the tracks. Okay, like this. I recorded this, I want to say 2008, something like that. And then I loaded up on my Tascam. So I had this song in my Tascam before I had these loop pedals. So I had to bounce it back from here right into the loop pedal. You know? So that's an example right there of using this jack, this cord, to plug it directly into the loop pedal and load it up. And everything's hands-free. You know? So it's kind of a little bit of a long intro, but you know, in between I was doing volume swells and that's how we create my backing tracks. That's for the keyboard plus for the guitar synth, and then I hope this impact's not gonna be too loud. You know, just boom, volume spike. You know. So that drum that you're hearing is from that drum machine, and when I'm recording, I'll have guitars pan left and right to give a nice even wall sound, and certain instruments down the center. I think the keys, the strings, I had them kind of down the center. So, but that's basically directly from here. So this is what I mean. Some of this gear that is a few years old has certain features that newer gear doesn't. They take out, like your phones that now, some of the iPhones, they don't have a headphone jack. So I guess you gotta buy separate headphones or special headphones. It's like, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you know. Same with Digitech, you have to use their power supply, although the one spot works. So, but anyways, guys, so that's just really my perspective on high-end gear versus low-end gear. And it's not to say that my method's better than anybody. It is. It's just different. That's all it is. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let me see something. Okay, because I'm trying to catch up on some of these chats here now. All right. Do you know offhand? Let's see. I'm sorry. My ME70 auxiliary in must be a pass-through, right? I think it is. Yeah, your auxiliary, because I have the ME70. Over here. I'm not trying to brag, guys. This is everything acquired over years. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's auxiliary input right there. It is bypass. It'll be bypass, so it will not go through the preamp. The Hughes and Kettner has a RCA jack, and you can load up. You can run backing tracks. Let's see, a few other amps. My older amps don't have that. I know the Marshall Code 50. It has an auxiliary. It's gonna sound very boxy because it's not using the EQ off there. So basically, the best way, if you're gonna use anything like here, I don't even think the volume on here, it's not gonna affect it. So if you have something off your Tascam, let's see, or whatever device you're using, and the volume is going to be low, well, you can't crank up the master volume on this because it's bypassed, you know. This pedal's a good pedal too, although I will agree, Guitar Hack, I will agree with him. Okay, this will run on batteries. It is analog, and you have to really mess with the EQ to get it sound kind of nice and beefy if you want. Otherwise, yeah, it will sound a little bit like transistor radio, you know. But you see, the headphone jack, where's that at? Right here, headphone recording. See, when I run through powered monitor speakers and PA speakers, I do that because a lot of times at my shows I got acoustic music I'm doing. If I'm using my guitar synthesizer, I need something full range. Drums and bass sound better through full range. I'm sorry, you know what? And they'd have to really convince me on a guitar cabinet that's tailored for mid-range that's going to be able to get full range sound. It's not really going to happen. So that's why when you run it through a PA system, even if it's two-band, just regular speaker with, let's say, 12-inch and a horn, it's still more full range. That little port on the bottom is going to be like a bass port. You're still going to get a fuller range, cleaner sound when you have to do drums, bass, keys, piano, or acoustic guitar than if you try to run it through if you got a Mesa Boogie, high-end, a Friedman high, whatever, it's going to sound like it's going through a 412 cabinet because it's set for guitar. So that's why I use what I use. And that's why I plug in on the mixer out. I don't go out guitar amp because it just has a funny sound when I go through there. Now for the guitar amps, you'd be surprised. Basically, if I'm going to use effects for a guitar amp, personally, I'd rather use the distortion off of the amp and go through the effects loop on certain effects. But phasers, univibes, which one more thing to get. It's a little chicken salad pedal. A guy did a video on some of the univibe. No one knows what a univibe is, or he didn't know. JHS pedals. He did a great video, but he also demoed the little chicken. It's called a chicken salad. It's a plastic Dan Electro. I got it for like $10. Best Buy. I did a performance at Best Buy, and they gave me a deal, but it was like only $30 if you didn't play. Anyways, it sounds like Univibe. So this I'll run through the front of the amp. Yeah, I got my EQ pretty beefy. Yep, exactly. One issue I found is no separate volume for instrument versus headphone. Yeah, that's it. I don't know what on the ME80 if they fixed that, but I don't think they have. Okay, I got my thrash metal says I got my EQ'd pretty beefy. If you saw my last cover, that's recorded direct. Oh, I'm gonna watch that. All right, it's recorded direct to line in on PC. But when playing through an amp in the room at the same time, you want separate volumes. Absolutely. Yeah, for line record out versus instrument out. Yeah, see, this is why I'll do this. And it is because of that. Because if you take this out, it's really meant to go through the guitar amp. It's not really going to be too bad if you got a clean sound, you're using reverb or delay and compressor. You're not going to really hear that clipping. As soon as you use a distortion or even a smooth overdrive, it clips, man. It's going to sound kind of nasty. That is why what I like about the Digitech, that's its strong point. It was their technology with the Gen X series and in the early to mid 2000s was really meant if you want to go through like a monitor or a powered PA speaker or whatever. That's its strong point. Although when I take my Digitech and I have it tailored to mixer out, when I run through this or my Crate half stack, it has a better sound. That distortion still has a nice punchy sound, but it's a little bit more smoothed out. It doesn't sound nasty, But it all depends what people want. That's really what it is, So, let's see. All right, well, I'll tell you what, guys. I'm getting ready to wrap this up. I know Michael B's gone live. But, yeah, I just wanted to share with everybody, was not trying to make a debate that cheap is better than expensive or vice versa. It really is what you could afford. But you always come out ahead. Always think of this. If you could do more with less, especially if you spent less money, you could do more with it. That's when you really come out ahead because don't you find it awfully strange that 11 rack, I think Sweetwater is selling it for like $199 when not too long ago it was something like $8.99 or $9.99. Could you see what happens? The value drops real quick, This is why I say, yeah. Oh, thanks. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and I really appreciate that, Janice. I only say the things I say and try to share just personal experiences that I've had because it's nothing worse than seeing people spend money if they don't have to or they get ripped off on something. And it's sad to see because, as we all know, musical equipment, it's expensive, And it is an art. I'm not knocking it. It's people, they could sell what they want to sell it for and that, but the bottom, at the end of the day, it's your money, and can you really afford this stuff? And then for people to go, on YouTube and they want to be factual with not have anything to back up what they're saying. That's why I got all those videos up. And some of them I know they don't really sound all that good. Maybe the room's bad or, I have a bad day. But I want people to see this so that they see this is what it is really like. So, It's fun, but you have ups and downs with everything, so you don't get conned and spend a lot of money. Always remember, all these manufacturers, they're fighting for the same market, and that's us. You know, they want people to buy stuff. And they always just say, this is better than that, that's better than this, right? Oh, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, my ME70 was huge step up from the ME30. Yeah, gotta go to town. Thanks for sharing. Absolutely, and thank you for tuning in, Jason Wade. Yeah, we're gonna get ready to wrap this up and that. So again, guys, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate all your support. I really appreciate all your time, and definitely, you know, I haven't been on a whole lot of live chats lately because I got real busy with doing 2 routes, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, so my time get a little bit shortened there. But I'm going to start participating in your guys' videos, and I'll put some more of the, you know, friendly guitar challenges up and that. And this is really cool. I think GTV said that it helped inspire it, and it makes me feel real good that something that was kind of a stupid idea was able to inspire people to do the same thing, to help people write music. Because if you ever notice, we have a gazillion guitar players, but not a whole lot of new music coming out. So maybe it inspired people to say, hey, you got good ideas, you know, don't be afraid to share them. Because one person who says he's got Mr. Spock ears, he went to the best college and he could hear things that no one else could hear, well, that's great. Then he could sit all by himself and debate it all by himself, and everyone else could have a good time, right? Anyways, my friends, you have a great weekend. We really appreciate your support. We'll try to tune on everyone's live chats, and I'll be watching your videos, and I'll put some good thumbs up and comments for you guys. You guys all rock. Have a great, great rest of the weekend. Take care, and as always, God bless. We will see you on the next video. Take care, and God bless you all. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.